Let's bring in now the Australian's Environment Editor, Graham Lloyd. Graham, good to see you. Look, the Prime Minister has criticised Peter Dutton for pulling out of the 2030 climate targets. But experts and even the Grattan Institute is doubting whether Labor will be able to meet their current emissions reduction targets by 2030, which are 42%. What do you think?
Well, good evening, Sharri. This is really the key question out there at the moment is whether there is any prospect at all of the government meeting the target that is there. It's very easy to set a target and it's much more difficult to meet it. And what it's fair to say is that it's proving a lot more difficult than the government would have ever envisaged. Things are taking longer, they're more expensive, and it's not going as planned. So the view in the industry and in the think tanks is that this is pretty tough and we won't get there. And it's interesting to see even the Grattan Institute and others who are really pushing the government to adopt these sort of targets are now saying, oh, well, we never said it would be easy. But it's really that the Albanese government that's left holding the can.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So it doesn't look, according to the experts, it doesn't look like they're going to meet the 42% target in 2030. And yet the Climate Change Authority is on record in their 2024 issues paper discussing targets of between 65 and 75% by 2035. I mean, if you're not going to meet 42% by 2030, then isn't it a massive stretch to expect the government to get to 65 to 75% by 2035? And Graham, I mean, a 75% target by 2030 is what the Greens took to the last election. So these are quite ambitious and aggressive targets.
Well, they are, and this is the nature of what's happening. They're really reverse engineering the expectations of the UN climate establishment that we have to really form everything around meeting a target of keeping temperatures below 1.5 degrees. So that is where that target of 65 to 75 comes from. If we do that, then we're going to be on track for what the UN hopes is going to happen with the climate. And there's two problems with that. One is that it's easy to set the figure, but unless you actually achieve the reductions, it's all been for no point. And the other is that Australia is not alone in not meeting its targets. In fact, very few places, in fact, virtually nobody is meeting the reduction targets that they've promised. And even the targets that have been promised are not enough to achieve what the UN wants to happen. So there's two sort of worlds going on in parallel. One is this great expectation of what could happen and what would be the result. And the other is trying to actually deliver on those promises, and the two don't really sync up.
Look, it's fascinating. We're in this debate all over again. Graham Lloyd, thank you very much for joining me.